Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at basically what you should be doing at this kind of mid-season point in Season 2 of the War Within. I'm going to try and organize my video so that it goes basically from more casual aspects into more hardcore aspects, into some more refinement aspects. But obviously, number one story short, just do whatever you want to do. There's not actually anything you should have to do in World of Warcraft. There's tons of content, and I think every player can find their niche, but there is a lot of content. And so I think providing a video to kind of talk about what you could be doing or should be doing from like a meta standpoint or just a gameplay standpoint for mounts or whatever you want to do, I think is pretty good. Starting with the Undermine, obviously here you just want to clear the story. Try to do things like the rare farming, the scrap heaps, toy and rep farms, your weeklies, chat list, etc. You want to do all this while players are still in the zone, because it is something that's actually very crucial. It's a lot easier to do a lot of these things when there's a lot of players around. So doing it now while it's still hot and fresh and people are still around does make it a lot easier. On top of that as well, there is the story mode that you get from completing the story mode raid, that you get from completing the actual story campaign, or at least the initial component. And this rewards you with a free 658 piece of gear, so I highly suggest that you do this. Next, we're going to be taking a look at the Dastardly Duos event. Now, I've done a guide to this event, and I will be also putting up a guide on how to score really high in this event. But the main component here is your weekly quest, which gives you a champion level piece of gear and eventually a mount. But it's also a great way to farm veteran gear as well. So it's a great way to kind of gear up your ults, whilst also working your way towards getting a mount, getting a this, getting a that. I think it's something that's really, really quite worth it. So definitely I would consider it as a great way to stock up on gear for gear for ults, as well as also working towards a mount. Next, we have the Nightfall Radiance, very similar. This one also gives you a shot at champion gear from your weekly, but also just as a great way to pick up veteran crests, to pick up rep, gives you a good open world buff. You have some new mounts and transmarks that you can earn, some new pets, and on top of that as well, you also can very easily gather up veteran gear, crests, and just some good valuable upgrade material. It's also not actually a bad, like the event itself is not too bad for leveling ults as well, due to the fact that the daily quests give you quite a decent chunk of EXP, as does the world event, which is pretty good. Then, stemming from the Nightfall Radiance, we talk about just our regular weeklies. Obviously, every week you have a chance to earn yourself gold and gear and crests, and you should never just stop doing these. These are great and will always help to prioritize you in terms of what content you want to try out for the week. Could be time walking dungeons, could be PvP. I always try to do all of them because it just gives me a fun excuse to dive into content I maybe haven't done. Before we go into meta content, there is the puzzling Cartel chips. These chips are earned by completing a weekly quest. The first time you do it, it will give you 3, so it's very important to do it the first time because it guarantees you 1 heroic level piece of gear. But then you're going to want to do it each week to potentially earn up to 2 more heroic level pieces. That's 3 heroic pieces, and you can get this from just doing LFR and completing the weekly quest. Now, the reason I mention it is because it's a great way if you're not super keen on doing hard content just yet, and you still want to give yourself a little bit of a buffer. It's a great way to grab some pieces to give you some good buffer for that. Now going into kind of transitionary content, the Horrific Visions is actually pretty easy at a lower level, but you can scale it up to dropping champion and even heroic gear if you use a lot of the masks, which are basically modifiers to make the content harder. Running it solo or with groups of 3 to 4 players means you can just enjoy having a good time doing a different style of challenging content. The Enchanted Rune that you place for your headpiece is very helpful for other endgame content as well as the visions, and you can earn mounts and pets from it, so it's something you should definitely try. Talking about endgame content, we go into the traditional endgame content now, speaking about delves. Delves scale all the way up to hero gear. You have your season objectives where you can unlock customization options for the dirigible and the mounts, as well as you can also take on the Underpin, the seasonal boss, to earn yourself some transmog. Delves are a great way to also earn gilded crests, as it's pretty easy to clear tier 11 on Bountiful to get gilded. And on top of that, there will be an overcharged delve event where we'll get a new belt, some new power mechanics, and delves will become even better places for rewards. After delves, your two standard traditional options remain: raiding, which scales all the way up to mythic. You can still earn ahead of the curve, the achievement, and you can use now the enchanted rune and the future overcharge gear from the delve event, the belt piece, which will come out on the 18th of June to help boost your performance. With the enchanted rune, with the renown being able to be upgraded and giving you damage buffs and healing buffs, it's progressively become easier to do things like normal, heroic, and mythic. With players having practice, people being geared up now, there's plenty of time to push the raids in a much more comfortable space. The same can be said about Mythic Plus, with players being geared up, with players having these new buffs like the overcharge gear that's coming, the rune, the enchanted rune piece from Horrific Visions. There's still plenty time to really kick into high gear and slam out these Mythic Pluses. So there's no real excuse. It gets more comfortable progressively week by week. To be able to challenge this content, you have plenty of time to start now. Yeah, you may not clear all the challenges, but if you've ever been interested, you have a pretty good safety net with which to start this content with. And finally, we talk about PvP, which is kind of its own thing. I've always been tempted to dive into PvP super seriously, and every time I get to the end of the season, I go, damn, I wish I'd spent more time trying to get into PvP. You still have plenty of time to do so. If you're someone who's interested in PvP, there's still time to really make a dent and start to learn the mechanics, gearing up your character and earning the PvP mount. You just have to really put your head first and dive into that content. Now that we've spoken about the traditional endgame content, I want to talk a little bit about gear refinement and some other bonus events you can do. The first is the Gilded Augmentation Matrix. This can be purchased from the rune crafting vendor near the crafting hub in Donegal. It will allow you to upgrade your fortune crafted gear, which you can get with gilded crests from delves, to a higher item level. This again is a further increase to help out all other content and is something players should consider doing to really fine-tune their gear. Your set bonuses and charges will be set at max now. All players should be able to have all 8 charges for their transfusion of their set, and this means that all players should at the very least have their full set bonus if they've been doing a bit of PvE endgame content. This is great because it gives you a further power boost in challenging all the other content, and means also that any ults you have can very quickly get their full set up and running. And because you have 8 charges, you can kind of just get the full set on lower tier gear and then save it for when you want to on some of the higher tier pieces that you need to obtain that set bonus. Finally, there will be seasonal events and also upcoming content. On the 18th, we'll get a new story patch, the Arathor update. This will bring with it overcharged delves, which will bring a new belt that will have further powers that will help you in PvE content, so another borrowed power mechanic to help boost you. We have the Dastardly Duos event and a whole bunch of seasonal events coming our way, so players should look forward to joining in that. And if you are still looking for more World of Warcraft content to participate in that you are super keen on, you can always look into Pandaria Classic, as it's coming out, I think, fairly soon in July. So really awesome stuff. And that's it from me. I hope this video has helped you to understand what you can be doing and what you should maybe be doing during this mid-season. You have plenty of time to still kill a lot of goals, so get on and have a good time. Bye.